I believe the Chargers are going to be a playoff team this year, but there are some people out there who don't share that same sentiment and think that the LA Chargers are severely overrated entering this season because they don't have a playoff caliber roster. And that is true. This team has a lot of holes. They have an unproven group of wide receivers. Your running back core doesn't really look that good. And your defense has a lot of holes also. But when you have an elite head coach in Jim Harbaugh who has proven that he's able to win in the National Football League, we seem to forget his first 3 years with the 49ers. He took them to 3 straight NFC championships and a Super Bowl appearance. Before that, the 49ers were irrelevant. With Jim Harbaugh being paired up with Justin Herbert, you're going to have one of the best head coach quarterback duos in the league. And normally that's a recipe for a successful season, considering the schedule that the Chargers have this year. They play 7 teams this season that didn't make it to the playoffs last year. Plus, you're going to be massively improved up front. Jim Harbaugh, what's his mantra? Being a physical, tough football team, winning in the trenches. Under Brandon Staley, the Chargers were soft, and they also were undisciplined. There were a lot of games that the Chargers lost because their defense had a lot of blown coverages, missed assignments, missed tackles. You're not going to see that under Jim Harbaugh. When you have a great coach, he can win with not having a stacked team, because there are certain games that good coaching can win you, that bad coaching loses you. Under Brandon Staley, you gave up 60 points to the Las Vegas Raiders with Aiden O'Connell. That damn sure isn't going to happen with Jim Harbaugh being your head coach, and I can guarantee and promise you that. And with Jim Harbaugh, your offensive line, your defensive line are going to be able to help you win at least 8 to 9 games, bare minimum, this season. Jim Harbaugh is that good as a coach. You can say, well, if he's that good, why did he get fired by the 49ers? He got fired due to him getting into it with the front office. And I bet you if the 49ers could go back and redo that decision, they would, because after that they had Jim Tomsula, Chip Kelly, and neither one of those guys had winning records, and they were awful hires, which is why they ended up hiring Kyle Shanahan right after him. And that's when their franchise started to turn around. But Jim Harbaugh, with him being able to have the amount of success he did quickly with the 49ers, it's not crazy to expect him to have that same amount of success with the LA Chargers out the gate. Now, are they going to be able to make it to the AFC Championship? Probably not, but they definitely could make it to the playoffs, win a wild card game, and be competitive in the second round, in the divisional round. Eventually, their lack of talent is going to come back to haunt them if you end up having to play a stacked team such as the Baltimore Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs, because you're going to have a team that's just as talented, if not more talented than you, with just as good or better coaching. But for them to be a playoff team, all they have to do is beat teams such as the Falcons, who is a big mystery when it comes to seeing how good of a coach Raheem Morris is, because the last time he was a head coach in the league, he got fired by Tampa Bay. Carolina is expected to be one of the worst teams in the league. The Saints have Dennis Allen as their head coach and Derek Carr as their quarterback. So just with you going up against the NFC South alone, you should sweep that division. You should be 4-0. Your division in the AFC West isn't even that tough. You can definitely split with Kansas City, and you should mop the floor with the Las Vegas Raiders. They got no quarterback. They got a decent team and other positions, but their offensive line isn't that good. The Denver Broncos, as much as I love and respect Sean Payton, they got a lot of holes on that team that they're not going to be able to make up for due to coaching, because they're going to have a rookie quarterback. There are so many advantages that the Chargers have going into year one under Jim Harbaugh that shows you they don't need to have a stacked team to win. Their schedule's easy. Their division isn't that tough. All you need is for Justin Herbert to stay healthy and for Jim Harbaugh to do what he does best. turn you into a physical football team. You hire Greg Roman as your offensive coordinator. When he first got hired and they asked him, so Greg, what are you going to do to help Justin Herbert? Everybody thought the answer was going to be get more wide receivers, do this in the passing game. Greg Roman gave the Greg Roman answer. He said, man, can you imagine Justin Herbert with the great run game? That's been the biggest inefficiency that Justin Herbert has had to deal with ever since he first got drafted by the Chargers. Their lack of a great run game. That's why you lost to Jacksonville in the wild card round not too long ago when you made it to the postseason. Because when you're up that big, you have to be able to run the ball so you can take time off the clock. You couldn't do that against Jacksonville, and that's why they came back and beat you. Because you couldn't sustain ball control. You couldn't control time of possession. That's going to change under Jim Harbaugh. You got J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, who both have played in Greg Roman's system when he had a lot of success in Baltimore. The reason he got fired wasn't because he was a bad head coach. It just was he reached a certain point where Lamar Jackson needed somebody who could get more out of the passing game. Greg Roman is one of those coaches that you hire him to be your OC for 2-3 years, and then eventually once you get to a point where you're a Super Bowl caliber football team, that's when you go and you find the OC that can take your passing attack to the next level and then make you a complete championship team. The Chargers are not a Super Bowl team right now, and they don't need to be, because with everything they had to do to get within the salary cap, it was not going to be possible for them to have a Super Bowl contender year one under Jim Harbaugh. He definitely is not walking into the same situation that he did in San Francisco. San Francisco had a stacked team. It just had a lot of talent that was underutilized and put in the wrong situations because the coaching was so damn bad. But you still are good enough to have immediate success right away year one under Jim Harbaugh. This dude is a fantastic coach. He has won everywhere he's been, from Stanford to San Francisco, Michigan. He just won a national championship. They have won the Big Ten Conference for 3 straight years. They've smoked Ohio State. He's a winning football coach. I'm not about to question somebody that has a resume of winning. He has yet to fail anywhere he's been. The Harbaugh brothers in general are fantastic coaches. Jim Harbaugh is going to work, and this is going to be a playoff team. Their schedule is not good. They got to play Arizona this year. They don't got a good defense, and their offense isn't good. All they have is Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner, and Kyler Murray. That's about it. I'm willing to bet money that the Chargers end up being a playoff team this year. Whatever their over-under win total is, give me the over. And I was looking at their schedule earlier before I recorded this, and I had them winning at least 11 games this season. Could they end up winning less than that? Yeah, but I think the minimum is 8-9 wins. I still believe that a 9-win season can get you a 7th or 6th seed in the AFC this year, only because of how good of a quarterback Justin Herbert is. Justin Herbert is the most overhated quarterback in the league, in my opinion, because too many people blame the Chargers' shortcoming on him and don't put enough of their shortcomings on poor coaching. Justin Herbert has been as good as what he's been, having to overcome 3 coaching staff changes. Do you not know that most young quarterbacks that have to deal with 3 new coaching staffs most of the times end up being bust? Look at Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston. When you have a young QB early into his career that has to overcome the amount of coaching turnover that Herbert has had to overcome, they normally end up not panning out. That shows you just how talented this dude truly is. I see the Chargers being a playoff lock this year. And for the people that say they're overhyped, I'll tell you, go check Jim Harbaugh's rap sheet. He's a proven winner. You don't need a stacked team to win. Look at the Cleveland Browns. They went to the playoffs last year with Joe Flacco and a banked-up offensive line. They were down 4-3 starters on that O-line, and they still made it to the postseason. Just because you have a talented team doesn't always mean you're going to win. You know how many times the Dallas Cowboys missed the playoffs in the past? having stacked teams under Jason Garrett. Just because you have a stat team doesn't mean that that's always going to translate to wins. Look at the coach that the Chargers just had, Brandon Staley. The Chargers have been viewed as a Super Bowl contender for the last 2-3 years, and they've never lived up to expectations because of poor coaching. Brandon Staley is the perfect example of why having a talented team doesn't mean squat if you don't have good coaching. Good coaching and good quarterback play can overcome a roster that isn't that good.